I'm back on the trail. So this is section 5, Lost Creek Wilderness. I'm hiking from here to Kenosha Pass. I was planning to get on the trail in, maybe 4 or 5 days again. But there was a series of thunderstorms that delayed everything. And then I got sick. And I can't tell you how mind-bogglingly frustrating that is, because it's gorgeous out here. And from my original attempt to get on this trail, stay on the trail, hike the whole thing, to doing these little segments with yet another 3-week break. Now, mind you, it's only been 20 days. I'm one day short of a 3-day break, so 3-week break. So that's something. That's part of why I got out today. I think I'm done with my sniffles. We'll see after I hike a lot. But it is just so good to be back out here hiking along. So, did you notice last video? Every section started with me saying, so what I'm going to try to do on this video is not say so every single time I start talking. I mean, this might be problematic. Maybe that's the starter motor to my brain to get words to start flowing, is that I need to say so. Pause. Now when I start up, you notice that time I didn't say so. I'm going to try and do more of that. This became super apparent when I was editing the last video. Holy smoke. So. Sometimes I'd say, but it seemed that there always had to be some sort of short phrase before I actually started saying anything that meant anything. So I'm going to try to stop doing that. I was thinking about the idea of keeping a steady pace as you hike, as I was hiking along. And I don't think that's the right idea, or at least it's an idea that can be easily misconstrued, because when you use the word pace, that implies a consistent speed. And speed is not what you want to keep consistent. What you want to keep consistent is effort. In other words, keep the speed of your heart and lungs consistent, and not so much legs and feet. So the worst time to get hit by a rainstorm is right at dawn, because, it didn't rain that long, maybe 45 minutes. But of course, you got your tent out, everything's out, needs to be repacked, and it gets soaking wet. Okay, for me, I'm just not in a hurry. Now, I am at 10,000 feet, so if you look over here at my tent, which I've got sitting out in the sun, man, the sunshine at 10,000 feet dries crap out really quick. The problem is that if you look at the sky, I've got great big monster clouds like this already getting dark. And if that closes off my sun, then that's going to be it for drying. But, it's not too bad. So I'm going to throw camp all back together and get on the trail here pretty soon. Okay. It's time to make dehydrated glop. Again. Because I figure out the magic thing is, the longer you let it rehydrate, the more it gets just like natural old food. However, here we go. I'm adding something new to the mix, my dehydrated food that I made. Just dehydrated some frozen vegetables. And if you're going like, boy, that's just a teeny sprinkle. I was actually surprised a 2-pound bag of frozen vegetables filled this plastic bag up to about here. So you got to be careful not to go too crazy, because otherwise it will just rehydrate like nuts. We are going to have the teriyaki chicken, which I got to say, I like the pulled pork too, but for some bizarre reason, the people manufacture that have just chocked it full of sugar. It's just like, is this a lollipop or is this pork? And well, I guess it's somewhere in between lollipop and pork. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and finish scooping the goop into here. And then it's going to sit in my pack all day, getting hydrated. And that means if the day gets cut short because of rain, because I already showed you that big cloud up there, I can just get into my tent, get out my spoon, and stuff this stuff into my face, and I will be fed. Yay for me. Okay, the soggy tent is all wrapped up and in my pack, and I'm back on the trail. Now, I just met a guy. It got me thinking about the whole idea of aging as being the result of attitude. You know, what a completely bizarre thing to think. Human beings, Homo sapiens in particular, have been around 200,000 years. And where the hell is the 2,000-year-old man? Or even 300-year-old, or 150-year-old guys? You mean every single person who's ever lived has had such a bad attitude after a while that they drop dead? I mean, most of them are going between, say, 50, to 80 years, somewhere in there. Once we kind of exclude the former really bad infant mortality that we used to have, which made those numbers look way worse. But really, everybody gets such a bad attitude, they just drop dead. Doesn't there have to be something else going on? Like aging is actually a thing rather than an attitude? That's why I bring this up. This guy's 61, a few years younger than me. Not much. While we was talking, he was asking me what I was up to, and I'm doing 5 or 6 mile days, and then going slow, kind of beat up. And he said, well, you don't stop hiking when you get old. You get old when you stop hiking. He's very friendly about this, and we're having a good conversation. I'm sure he's like a really nice guy. But stop and think about that for a while. Am I having the troubles that I'm having because I'm not trying? I'm having the attitude that I have because my trying is so unsuccessful. I mean, I've been at this 2 months. I'll hit the 60-mile mark sometime, soon. For a young, healthy person, that's 3 days. So, all this is leading me to rant about one of my really favorite things to rant about, and that's this saying. And boy, have I heard this more than once when I've talked about the troubles that I'm having, operating an aging body that gets no deep sleep. And it goes like this. I know this one guy who's 80 who does blah, 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 blah. Details after that aren't important. Let's go back to that initial statement, though, and think about it for a second. What is the single most critical word in that sentence? I know this one. Ding, 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 ding. There it is. One. Look, in any Gaussian distribution, there are outliers. There is going to be that one 80-year-old person who's there. You know, it's not that 120-year-old person who's doing that, because they're dead. Probably because they had a bad attitude. But let's think about this for a moment as I adjust my waist strap. So my back that's had surgery isn't cranky. Let's think about this for a moment. First thing we got to do is get in our Wayback Machine. Let's go back in time, 50 years. Let's go to the ski resort that I spent all winter skiing at. And you know what we're gonna find? That ski resort is absolutely chocked full of 30-year-olds. You know why? Because 30-year-olds are still pretty fit, and they're probably established enough in their career that they can actually afford to go skiing, which 50 years ago was expensive, which has gotten even more ludicrously expensive. So eventually, you know, you're gonna go to ski resort and you're gonna find 3 people there: Elon Musk, Bill Gates, and Bezos. And that's gonna be it. There's only gonna be 3 people. It's the only people who can afford to go. Okay, so the whole place is chocked full of 30-year-olds. So it's like, let's go talk to those skiers and say, do you love skiing? Oh, I love skiing. I love to be out here all the time. How long do you want to ski? Oh, I want to ski forever because this is so much fun. So, wait a minute. The person who said, I know this one 80-year-old, as this is somehow a reflection back on me and the effort that I have, you know, regarding my physical life. Well, what happened? How come there was only one? There were probably thousands 50 years ago when they were 30. Same damn people. You put 50 years on them, they all have bad attitudes. No, they age. Age is a physical reality that limits what you can do. Now, I'm sure where this all got started is you can have a better attitude or a worse attitude while you're doing it, but I'm not sure how much difference that really makes. Okay, here we go. I'm walking in the woods right now. I'm walking in the woods, and let's try having a good attitude while I'm walking in the woods. I'm walking on sunshine. Whoa, this is the greatest thing in the world. Look how beautiful everything is. Okay, I'm walking. Okay, now let's have a bad attitude. Oh, life sucks. I think my fucking knee hurts. I'm so tired of being old and grumpy. Oh, I'm still hiking. Actually, the physical reality, the situation didn't change once at all. My perception of it changed. But you don't have a good knee, you don't have a good attitude, and your knee gets better. It's still the same. I think the thing that you can do, which is kind of what I was talking about in the last video, is that if you're going to be miserable because something's physically wrong with you and that's the only choice you got, choose where you're going to be miserable. And on that last section of the trail, I was pretty miserable most of the trip until I had that one night's poor sleep, which was so much better than the horrific sleep that I've been getting. And then by comparison only, then I went, yay, this is pretty grooving. But I think that's the only place that attitude does play into it, is the whole idea of if you're not going to feel well, or if you're tired, what can you physically do? You know, acknowledging the parameters of reality, and try and find the funnest thing that you can do while feeling miserable. And then at least you get to do something, because I've been coming more and more to the conclusion that, you know, what is the meaning of life? It's like, look, throw all that crap out the window. You got a day. What are you going to do with it? I have a day. What am I going to do? I'm going to walk up here another 5 miles. I'm going to watch the world go by. And I was even thinking another thing along the similar lines. Talking to a friend in some romantic woes, who was talking about, like, asking their significant other, do you love me? And I'm going like, I got an idea. Why don't you just throw that line completely, find a big dumpster, throw it in, pour some gas in it after it, light a match, have a dumpster fire with that freaking line. Never ask that again. I got a better line for you. Much, much better line. How about this? What do you want to do tomorrow? Because you have a day and you need to do something with it. Does that person want to spend that day with you? That's something I'd much, much, much rather know than whatever somebody else's interpretation of what the hell the word love means. Because as far as I can tell, there's an infinite variety of what that word means. One for every person. Oh, wait, there's not an infinite amount of people. So anyway, I'm kind of proud of this rant, given where we started, where we ended up. So anyway, I got to get on with hiking before my arm falls off from holding this camera up. Can I hold your attention for more than 20 minutes? Attention, attention, oh, attention. I don't know. The last video I took a lot of clips and that video went pretty long, and I'm thinking here I am on the morning of the first day. I've already done a 10-minute rant, so this video is probably going to go longer than 20 minutes, and it does concern me that you guys might just lose focus on this whole thing. But I don't know. For me personally, I think I'm putting together an interesting string of thoughts and ideas. And wow, this break might not be very long because it rained this morning and the mosquitoes are going off. But anywho, getting back on track. I've been thinking in my mind that I might have to go back through these videos and then write up something more coherent about, the subjects that I've addressed in this. Obviously, these are not scripted. So if we're going to talk about something that's real and authentic, this is as authentic as it can get. Guy in the woods, talking away. I thought at some point I should talk about my uniform, because if you've been watching these videos, you must realize that I've worn the same thing every single shot. And that's because, in the woods, you realize there's just no point in changing clothes in a situation where you're really not bathing very often. So let's see, factor one, we got this hat. This is Sunday, extra large for my big fat head. General rule of thumb with hats is the stupider it looks, the better sun protection it has. If it looks cool, probably doesn't have very good sun protection. Next thing we got is this green shirt, which I really like for hiking. The breeze just blows right through it because it's full of all sorts of little teeny holes, which is great for the hot days because when you're hiking, you get cooled off. But what's also nice for it is it gets cold if you put a wind layer over it, then all those little holes are trapped dead airspace. So it ends up being really warm. And what you might not realize, it also has a hood, which just makes evenings or sleeping that much warmer if you keep your noggin warm. These shirts, of course, they're no longer available because it's an REI product and everything at REI gets discontinued, first year, maybe second year. So if you ever find something in that store that you like, buy a lifetime supply because you'll never see them again. In this case, these shirts, see here, they run really easy. So I bought one, thought it was cool, and then went to their garage sale and a bunch of people had returned them because they had runs in them. So I bought 2 extra. So now I got a lot of them. Pants, let's see. Can you see my pants? Also REI pants. They're co-op pants. They got zip off legs, so if it's hot I can take those off. But the other thing about them is that they're really light. And it's amazing how heavy pants can be. When I went through my supply of them, some of them are just super, super heavy. Now, this also means because they're light, they'll tear and rip easier, but you know, keeping the weight down, things are pretty grooving. And also because there's not a lot of material, if you get them wet, they dry out just about instantaneously. Now, shoes. Oh, wait, here. Oh, changing the shot. There's my shoes. Kind of the ubiquitous Ultra Lone Peaks. Mine are the high tops. But very importantly here, they're Gore-Tex. Man, oh man, go into a store, people are gonna keep trying to talk you out of Gore-Tex shoes. I'm not sure what's wrong with these people, because wet feet suck. And if you have Gore-Tex shoes, your feet stay dry. For instance, just this morning, I was filling up my water bottle, put my foot on a rock that looked solid, but it was absolutely children's playground grade teeter-totter. And then half my foot went in. I would have wet, damp feet for the rest of the day if I had one of those ventilated shoes. But as it is, because I have Gore-Tex shoes, my foot is absolutely 100% totally dry. So I just want to say, if you're watching a lot of YouTube videos and you're taking footwear advice from a person who puts on their socks and then plastic bags and then puts their feet in ventilated shoes and then goes post-holing in hip-deep snow. Now this person, you want to take a lot of their advice, because man, oh man, that person has a lot of good advice. Footwear isn't one of them. So if you know nothing, I would influence you in having Gore-Tex shoes, because you have nice dry feet. And as a guy who spent his first 30 years of his life in Wisconsin, I've already had my fair share of soggy feet, soggy cold feet, and I'm done with it. So I was ranting in an earlier video about how in these wilderness areas you're not allowed to put trail markers. And that would be these little metal triangles that say Colorado Trail on them. To me, that just seems silly. Like, just put up trail markers. It's not that big of a deal. However, I'm kind of on the side of like this being completely egregious. This is a trail marker, a blaze, as it is called, where somebody's taken an axe and scarred this tree in 2 different places to mark the trail. Seems like total overkill. If we have a choice between doing something like this and just putting that little metal triangle in, let's put the little triangle in. I mean, this is, after all, a living thing, and it's scarred, and you can see the sap where it's repaired its wound. Now, why is this in a wilderness area? I would guess because this is many, many decades long and old, that is, and happened long before this became a wilderness area. Now here's another kind of trail marker. This marks that some elk was hungry, because these are teeth marks. I just hit the 60-mile mark just a ways back there. Which, if you consider that how long I've been at this, it means I'm averaging about a mile a day. Which is, of course, not what's happening. I'm not walking 1 mile a day. I'm walking 5, 6 miles a day, and then taking ridiculously long breaks to be sick and worn out and whatnot, which is somewhat aggravating. But it brings up an interesting point. If you are thinking of hiking and going, well, what if I can only hike like that used up piece of crap Bill Lawrence 5 or 6 miles a day? The truth is, if you can do it consistently, I'd be 300 miles into this trip. I'd be somewhere south of Monarch Pass by, a good 50 miles, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. Which I think means the goal should not be fast. but the goal should be consistent. What can you keep doing? And if I could keep doing 5 or 6 miles a day on a more continuous basis, uh, this would be a potential reality. If I was today, whatever, August, 21, I think it is, and I was south of Monarch Pass, I'd be start thinking like, yeah, I can make Durango. And that surprises me because I think when you think of these trails, like obviously those people who are doing 15, 20 miles a day can do it. And then obviously a person like me who's only doing 5 or 6 can't. But if I could do it every day, I'd be in pretty good shape for finishing this thing up this year. There was supposed to be an 80% chance of thunderstorms today, but this overcast sky that we've had for the most of the day is kind of working in my favor. It's keeping out the sun powers the convection builds the clouds, and as you can see, we're into the afternoon and we don't really have any big threatening thunderstorms. So, what if I had only hiked 3 miles a day? Could I stay down the trail consistently? And if I had, I'd be like over 100 miles farther down the trail than I am at this point. But it brings up some interesting problems. I would be adding 50% the amount of days, which would mean I'd have to carry 50% again, food and water. But I think the biggest problem with going 3 miles a day is that what the hell would I do with the rest of the day? I mean, it wouldn't take that long to hike 3 miles. So, you'd have hours and hours. And, I do write books. I'm on my 5th book, which is kind of cool. Nobody actually reads my books, but, I amuse myself. And had I figured out maybe earlier to get one of those on Google Docs, then maybe that's what you do is, you hike your 2 hours a day at best, then you enjoy the scenery and work on your book. But the thing that I'm noticing just doing 5 or 6 miles a day is I'm having a hard time being patient enough to take the rest breaks that I need even to sustain this pace, which, like I said, is averaging out to be a mile a day, mainly because I keep on getting worn out and having these 3-week-long breaks, which the downside of the 3-week breaks is that I get really frustrated, if not just flat out angry. It's like, come on, this ain't this bad. Should be able to get on the trail more. The good side, though, is that, man, the first couple sections, basically every single joint, that mushy ligament, duct tape crap that holds your body together, everything you can do is screaming bloody murder. It's like, yeah, I hurt, this hurt, that hurts. And you feel like you're playing whack-a-mole all day long, trying to, keep things from cramping up or, soothing out something that's starting to ache or changing position or doing some stretches. Take a 3-week break, I come back and all that stuff's pretty much gone. Now, it does like to kick back up again, but, it isn't that bad with those 3-week breaks. But the other downside of the 3-week breaks is that I'm not building strength. I'm not getting tougher. There's too much downtime in between to really make gains physically in terms of fitness. So I'm kind of just staying at this one level. And I think going forward for whatever's left of the season, I've got to get back out with maybe a week at worst, 10 days at absolute worst, so that I'm actually gaining strength as I go along. And then potentially I could hit a tipping point where everything's tough enough that I'm not getting injured, I'm not getting worn out, and I don't need these long breaks. End of the second day. And I've got my tent up, which is good news because that stuff isn't. You know, I just shot that video. Listen. Can you hear that? It's the sound of the first raindrops. I got in this tent with about 20 seconds to spare. I still don't know if I'm quite ready for the leaves to change. Doesn't seem like we're that close to fall. Well, here I am, the final day on the trail, which is kind of a good thing for me because I brought along my lightest of lightweight tents, a Black Diamond Highlight, I think it's called. It's a well-built tent, sturdy, super light. It's advertised as being water resistant. And I gotta say, before I bought the thing, I looked all over the internet. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? Is this just a technical term that they're not legally allowed to use? Waterproof, that is. And so they opted for water resistant and the tent will be totally fine. The answer is no. It's kind of like an old canvas tent in that if it's a relatively short shower, you know, maybe an hour or so, it will fend things off just fine. But last night it rained for a good, hard to keep track of it, probably 6 hours. And after a certain point, the moisture starts to wick through the fabric, drop inside your tent. So I got a pack full of soggy tent, soggy sleeping bag, sogginess. Nothing too terrible. I mean, we have a sunny day, I could dry it all out. But you know, the other thing that's up today is that it's not even 50 degrees. And after a record-breaking hot summer, it's weird to actually have to put on a layer to stay warm. So that's why it's good it's my last day on the trail, because I need to dry everything back out again. Now see that hill there? That's the hill on the other side of Kenosha. I've probably flown my paraglider off that thing a good 100 times. We'd go up there with the new guys and have them practice their skills. Maybe you can see there's Highway 285 in the distance. It just seems absolutely inconceivable to me that I'm about to hike all the way from Denver to Kenosha Pass. I've driven that way so many times, it just seems like such a long ways to go. Let's make a metaphor. Now that the sun is shining, let's consider that all the physical adventures that life has to offer is a great big chocolate shake. And let me tell you, I got out my straw, stuck it in that baby, and gave it my best. I've hiked, biked, climbed, ice climbed, skied, snowboard, telemark skied, backcountry skied, toured, kayaked, whitewater kayak, sailed, windsurfed, kite surfed, went snow kiting. Am I missing something? Oh, land sailing. I've done all sorts of stuff, and of course, I dedicate the better part of 3 decades to paragliding. I've done these adventures all over the United States, including Hawaii, all over Central America, down in Peru and South America, all over Europe, and even into China, and then New Zealand and Australia. I mean, I've gone after it, that's for sure. So after kind of a break from doing those kind of activities, the pandemic mixed with elder care responsibility, You know, I came out here to hike this trail, so I got out my straw, and I stuck it back in that big chocolate shake, and I heard this. When I heard that sound, what did I do? Well, I did what any reasonable person would do. Denial, of course. But the more days I'm out here on the trail, the more I realize that I'm entering a new phase of life. As far as those physical activities go, I'm starting to say goodbye to things. As much as it pains me to say it. I look around at friends of mine who are around my age, some younger, some older. And already some of them have had to give up things that they love doing because of age and decrepitude, injuries, diseases and conditions. This stuff happens, and if I skip ahead to my friends who are 10 years older than me, there's a lot of things that have fallen by the wayside. And so, you know, what do? I think the path of denial doesn't work. Part of what has led me to be able to hike this 70 miles that I'm completing today is being respectful of limitations. That has kept me from getting injured, which would have ended the whole damn thing. If we go back to that guy that started the first rant of this video that I met, the part that I left out is although he was now hiking by himself, he had started the hike with two of his friends, also in their 60s. Now, I met him about the 60-mile mark. Two of his friends had already dropped out. One of them screwed up a knee. One of them got too sick to continue. So even though that guy was kind of giving me the motivational bumper sticker talk, via his own personal experience, only 1/3 of the people who started the trip with him made it to the 60-mile mark. So I think that plugging on, damn the torpedoes attitude will just get you injured, and that will be the end of the whole thing. Figuring out where you're at, what you can do, makes a lot more sense. And in my case, kind of letting loose the miles and concentrating on just how many days can I be out here in the woods has worked way better. As much as I get frustrated at times because I still remember having even a 40-year-old body where I'd be chugging along like a steam engine, yelling at people behind me, "Come on, hurry up," when other people are flagging out. That used to be my identity, and I'm having a harder time accepting the new identity. I'm the guy who gets passed by everybody. But once again, I'm here, and that's the point. So I'm going to keep my straw in the bottom of that milkshake, slurping away at whatever's left. And maybe, hopefully, you know, if I tilt it this way or that, I'll find some as yet unrealized pocket of chocolate shake in there still that I can slurp up. And then do what I can. And then be satisfied with that. But when it comes time to let go, I think it is important to let go, because the physical adventures of life is not all there is to offer. I can still play my instrument, my guitar, my cello, my drums. I can still write books. I can still draw. I can still travel. Will I be able to hike, paraglide, kayak, climb, you know, all that other crap I listed off? No. But I'll still have something to do. And that's good. Do you hear that? The sound of traffic. Those semis making their way up Kenosha Pass. It's funny when you've been out on the trail for days, you forget how loud cars are. I think when you're in the city, you also forget how loud cars are because it's so ubiquitous that it just disappears in the background. But then you get out here and you hike, you don't hear one for days. Then you go like, oh my God, these things make a lot of racket. That's a good 2 miles away that I'm looking. And it's clearly audible up here on the side of the mountain. Well, I've taken my final break. I'm now on the final mile. I have to say I've been looking forward to this section for actually years now, because I first hiked a section of the Colorado Trail some 6 years ago now. So, what a beautiful, dense, thick aspen forest. Well, the traffic just keeps getting louder and louder. You can see the highway right over there through those trees. So this is it. I'm actually going to make it 70 miles. It'll be time to hike into the old parking lot there and start looking for the big white truck. So as it turns out, this is the 70-mile mark right here. Got just a little bit more to go. See those cars between the trees over there? Over there. Wait, I think I've spotted the big white pickup truck.